It's Mitch back here for week number 5. My picks this week, straight up versus the spread. Last week, not the best I've ever done. It wasn't the most successful week of all time for Mitch, but, I'm hoping to rebound this week and have a better performance. So, we'll see how it goes. Give me your comments, give me your predictions in the comment section, whether you're live, whether you're after the fact watching this back on tape. Let me know what your picks are. I want to hear from you guys because, again, I say it many times, that's the only way I can kind of compare my thoughts to other people. I don't know everything. I'm not 100% accurate all the time. I try to be, but nobody can be. So let me know your opinion as well. And okay, so last week, how did I do? If I did so bad, how did I do? Well, let's see. Let's look at the record. All right, so I overall 41, 21, and 1 straight up. And versus the spread, I am overall 32 and 31. Last week, I was 5 and 10 versus the spread, which was by far my worst week. That last week was very difficult, and I think we learned a lot about a lot of teams across the NFL, and I learned a lot, definitely. And then straight up 7 and 8, not the best record either, so kind of leveled out my good start early in the season. The first 3 weeks, I was doing pretty well overall. That 4th week was by far the most difficult for me, and it just hit me like a hammer. So hopefully I can improve this week. Guys, again, if you are new, make sure you subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL videos, live videos, analysis, immediate reactions to trades, signings, weekly fantasy stardom and situm. All of that is here on The Bottom Line View, so make sure you do subscribe. Without further ado, let's get to the picks for week number 5. Before I do get into the Thursday Night Football matchup, which again is a very good matchup for this week, I do want to say that now that we are kind of a quarter of the way through of the NFL season, it means that we kind of have a decent grasp on what these teams are going to be, but also it means that the NFL teams have a decent grasp of what they've been for the first 4 weeks. It's kind of like in today's NFL, an extended preseason. I said this in my top 10 video. The first 4 weeks are used as kind of a training ground or a little bit of experimental action within the NFL to see what works, what doesn't work on offense, on defense, what players should fit in certain situations, what formations, what groupings, that sort of stuff, what players I want in 3rd and long on defense, how many defensive backs do I want, what linebackers are going to play for me, what defensive linemen, what receivers are most effective in certain situations. So in the first 4 weeks, coaches are still learning about their teams because they don't get to see it in preseason. And then once we get through those first 4 weeks, that's where the better coaches start to take over. They start to adjust. They start to get more film on other opponents. We start to see those teams that maybe came out in week 1 and 2 and were very explosive offensively. Teams have tape on them now, and that kind of hurts them, and other teams are able to adjust. That is why the Patriots have been so good at adjusting after week 4 traditionally and getting so much better, because that's what Bill Belichick is good at. That's why traditionally, a Doug Peterson-led team has been very good over the past couple of seasons at adjusting because they have figured out what their team does best, what their team is not so good at, and they've been good at adjusting to their teams and to their players. So, let's get to Thursday Night Football. The first matchup of the week, the LA Rams take on the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are favored in this matchup by 1.5 points. Both teams had some interesting losses over the past 2 weeks. So the Seahawks lost to the Saints at home in the first week where Teddy Bridgewater took over for Drew Brees. But this past week, they were able to rebound. They were able to pretty much dominate the Cardinals for the most part and come back with revenge in that game. What I was impressed with Seattle in their victory over Arizona was really how they changed offensively. They passed the ball more on first down. They were willing to pass more to Chris Carson out of the backfield. They were willing to use a little bit more play action and do that on first down instead of just running it up the gut. And I thought that really helped their offense get underway in the first half and really create some explosive plays down the field. And then for the Rams, they had their absolute worst game of the season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their defense looked horrible. And I do have many concerns, and I think those concerns coming into the season I had about the Rams kind of showed their head in that game versus the Bucs. Their offensive line did not look great, couldn't block Shaq Barrett to save their life. They couldn't really run the ball very effectively, partly due to the offensive line, partly due to the less explosive running back play. Jared Goff turned the ball over early on, and their defense just really wasn't able to adjust to what Tampa Bay was throwing at them, which I want to see if Seattle does similar things to attack this defense of the Rams, which over the first 3 weeks was playing very, very well, one of the better ones in the league, and now all of a sudden we have a total different kind of look at what the Rams defense is now after that game against the Bucs, where they literally could not stop Tampa Bay on a single drive in that game, it seemed like. So, how does that carry over into this matchup? Seattle's coming off a win where they probably feel pretty good about themselves. On the other hand, the Rams are a little bit angry. They probably want, to prove that that was just one stinker and then they're going to come back with revenge. They're moving on, but that sits in the minds of players that they want to prove that they're better than that. And traditionally, teams coming off a bad loss like that do come back and play better with more motivation. When you look at the Rams this season compared to the last couple of seasons where they have played very well versus Seattle, they've won 3 of the last games in this series, and they've scored over 30 points in all 3 of those games. But when you look at the difference this season from those past years, they were very good at running the ball those past years. This year, they're 22nd in running the ball. Seattle does rank 6th in stopping the run, and Seattle is 16th in yards per carry against, so giving up 4.2 yards per carry on defense, average in the league, but overall 6th in just rushing yards total. When you look at the Rams as well, they still have all the weapons in the passing game, but their offense isn't as effective when they're not able to run the ball, and it's not like teams are kind of calling their bluff on running the ball and setting up play action. Instead, they're just playing the pass and not worrying about the run because their offensive line is not able to open up those holes that they were the past couple of seasons. On the other hand, Robert Woods was able to get going in that game. Brandon Cooks had a good game. Cooper Kupp's been a monster. On the other side, Will Disley has been one of the best tight ends in the league so far, specifically in the red zone. They're using him very, very well, Seattle is. Can the Seahawks block Aaron Donald? That's one of the questions of the game. Is Aaron Donald going to completely destroy this game like he has versus Seattle in the past? Or will Seattle be able to make up for it and they'll be able to contain him the same way that the Bucs were? One credit I want to give the Bucs was they were able to block that front. Aaron Donald did not destroy that game. Dante Fowler was blocked. He did not destroy that game. So if Seattle can do that similarly and take a page out of the Bucs book, then they'll be set up in a good situation. I do want to say that the Cardinals early in that Seattle game, they were able to move the ball versus Seattle. They just weren't able to punch it into the red zone. So it's going to be interesting to see. And that might be a huge difference maker early in the game is Seattle's red zone defense. I think the Rams will be able to move the ball with pretty good efficiency through the air in this game. I don't quite believe in that Seahawks secondary. And the Cardinals were as well. It comes down to the red zone. Will Seattle be able to stiffen up on third down and be able to stiffen up in the red zone? And that's what it's going to come down for them to win this game. Overall, though, I like what I saw from Seattle offensively last week. Just getting Chris Carson the ball, the passing, the play action on first down, and Russell Wilson overall getting the ball quicker out of his hands. I don't know how much that had to do with Arizona and how much that had to do with changes Seattle made after that loss to New Orleans, but that is something to take into account. For the Rams, I think overall this is going to be a high-scoring game. I could see it in the high 20s, low 30s. I am going to take the Rams to win this game, even though it is in Seattle, and I'm going to take the point. Because at this point, I still do believe that the Rams are the better team, despite losing to the Bucs. I also do believe that the Rams have the number of the Seahawks, specifically when you're looking at McVay versus Carroll in McVay's offense versus Carroll's defense. And actually, the road teams have been pretty successful overall on Thursday Night Football this season. I believe only one home team's actually won this year so far. So I don't know why that is a trend, but it is a trend nonetheless. Again, I think the Rams are just the better team, more talented team. I would not be shocked whatsoever if the Seahawks won this game. I do think it will probably come down to a last-second touchdown, a last-second field goal. I just believe that the Rams are going to come back angry from that game that they had against the Tampa Bay Bucs. The Seahawks, as good as Tyler Lockett is, they don't have a Mike Evans or even a Godwin to really attack this secondary of the Rams. And I don't really know if the Seahawks, and if they're really creative enough like Arians and Leftwich were to be able to expose this defense the way that the Bucs and Winston were. So all that being said, this should really be a good game. I am going to go with the Rams to win and obviously to cover with the point. All right, the second game is the Jacksonville Jags taking on the Carolina Panthers. Carolina is actually favored in this game. They're at home, -3.5 points. Carolina is coming off 2 straight victories. They just beat the Texans, which they were underdogs in that game, on the road. They also beat the Cardinals 2 weeks back, where Kyle Allen put on a show with, I believe, 4 touchdowns, 38 points for Carolina. McCaffrey's been an absolute monster, and their defense is the real deal. On the other hand, Minshew, 17-3 down in Denver, finds a way to lead the Jags back in a comeback, and Leonard Fournette was the star of the show with over 200 yards rushing, deserves more credit. This is a battle between 2 of the best running backs in the game right now, or at least going into this game, McCaffrey and Fournette. The Panthers' defense could be the key to this game. When you look at how they've done this year, they're first in pass defense. That's even above the New England Patriots. They are number 1 in pass D and yards given up. They have played Tampa Bay, Houston, the Rams, and Arizona, and are still number 1 versus the pass, which is very impressive. Bradbury has looked really, really good. Dante Jackson didn't even play versus Houston, and they were able to shut down that deep passing attack of the Texans. They are tied for first in sacks, I do believe, with 18. And just overall, this defensive line, the secondary, Rivera, they're all doing a fantastic job of scheming up and just being a really hard defense to consistently move the ball against. They might give you 1 first down here or there through short chunks of yardage, but they're great at tackling. They're very fast, and they have a pass rush, the best pass rush they've had in quite some time. Quan Short did go down, though. He is on IR. He didn't play the last 2 games, from what I do believe, though, and really hasn't had a major effect. Bruce Irvin is back, though, in the lineup, and Dante Jackson should also be back in the lineup for this game. When you look at both quarterbacks, Kyle Allen has been composed. He might have turned the ball over 3 times last game in terms of fumbles, and 2 of those were actually in Houston territory to score more points. One of them actually set up Houston with their only touchdown in the game. If he doesn't fumble that ball, we might be talking about Carolina potentially shutting out Houston in Houston out of the end zone. So that would have been an extremely impressive performance. But nonetheless, Kyle Allen needs to figure out how to just, keep that ball close to his chest when he's in the pocket and be more aware within the pocket from rushers around him. He also did give one up while running the football for a first down. And then on the other side, Minshew's been a baller. He made some big plays versus Denver, escaping the rush, moving around. He had the second most tight window throws last week, only under Matt Stafford. So he's been impressive, and he's not afraid to make plays. Neither of these guys are, which is going to make this game fun. I do believe, though, it will be a defensive game. I do believe it will be within probably under 20 points for both teams. I think both defenses match up well against both offenses. When I look at 2 key statistics, the Panthers are 24th versus the run, though, defensively, even though they're first versus the pass. And Leonard Fournette could be basically the point of attack for Jacksonville, and they should stick with them in this game. The Jags are also 28th on third down offensively, so if the Panthers are able to stop Leonard Fournette, that's the key to this game. If they're able to stop him on first and second down and set up Jacksonville on a third and long, then they'll be able to get off the field very easily because Jacksonville's not very good at converting in those situations. One thing I'm worried about from Carolina's point of view is a lot of injuries. Turner's injured, Little's injured on the offensive line, so their offensive line's banged up. Brian Burns, who's been playing great, the rookie first-round pick's banged up. Jackson's banged up. Eric Reed's banged up. I think those guys are expected to play defensively, but I am a little bit worried about all those injuries. I also look at one thing. I mentioned how Carolina was very good at sacking the quarterback, getting pressure. Denver had 5 sacks versus Jacksonville last game. The Panthers are actually 0-2 at home and 2-0 on the road, but I do believe in this game they get their first victory. When I look at it, Joe Flacco is very successful throwing the ball versus Jacksonville without Jalen Ramsey in the lineup last week. I don't expect Ramsey to play this week, so I would give the edge to Carolina's offense versus Jacksonville's defense over Jacksonville's offense versus Carolina's defense. Specifically in Carolina, will it be more difficult for a young quarterback like Minshew to make plays? I do like both of these teams, actually. One guy to look out for is Mario Addison, who has 5.5 sacks so far in 4 games for the Panthers. But I'm going to go with the Panthers, but I will take Jacksonville plus 3.5 because, like I said, I think this is going to be like a 17-14 kind of game. So all the points I can get, I will take. So I will take Jacksonville plus 3.5, but I will take Carolina to win the game ultimately. But like I said, very tight game, could go either way. All right, one more game, guys, and then I will get to the comment section. Keep those comments flowing. Keep those likes flowing. Let's get those likes up. Gronk spiked the like button. Let's go, guys. I'm excited for week 5. All right. Next, the Arizona Cardinals versus the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, I think it's fair to call them the Bengals at this point. They have not won a game. Arizona at Cincinnati. Okay, Cincinnati's minus 3.5 despite not winning a game this year. That speaks to how bad Vegas thinks Arizona is. I will take Arizona to win and to cover outright. I think when I see the Cardinals, they have been competitive in each and every game they have played. Cincinnati, I understand that they played on Monday Night Football where Andy Dalton sucks on prime time. He has this whole curse about him and stuff. But when I went back to watch that Cardinals-Seattle game, I do feel like it was closer than the score indicated. I feel like the Cardinals have played competitively versus Baltimore. They played competitively. They tied Detroit. They were very close versus Carolina for a majority of that game. So I just feel like if that Clowney pick six doesn't happen, that game is within 10 points, and we're talking about a different story here, maybe even in terms of the spread. But I'm going to take Kyler Murray over Andy Dalton. Kyler Murray has made a lot of big plays this year that have gone unnoticed. He is a baller. He makes plays behind the line of scrimmage. He extends the play. And versus a kind of pretty easily taken advantage of defense in Cincinnati, I do feel like Arizona can score some points in this game. I feel like they do have mismatches on the outside. David Johnson should be able to have a good game here. One guy to look out for on the Cardinals defense, which I do feel like they can get pressure after Cincinnati with T-Sizzle, the guy who played very well versus Seattle. Look out for him. Terrell Suggs, he's still working out there as an old man, but he's still playing very well. And Chandler Jones, of course. Those two guys coming off the edge, I think, will provide problems for Cincinnati. And Cincinnati doesn't have any receivers. I mean, they have Tyler Boyd, but that's about it. I don't think that's enough to take advantage of kind of a weak secondary for Arizona. So I am going to say that this will be Arizona's first victory. Even if it's on the road, I think that Kyler Murray will just make 1 or 2 more plays, and this offense with David Johnson will make 1 or 2 more plays than Cincinnati's. Cincinnati has had some good games this year where they've been close with good teams, but I just feel like this is the time for the Cardinals to pick up their first win. All right, let's get to the comments section. How about that? So, how you guys feeling? How you guys feeling about week 5? All right. All these things are on my screen. Eat Your Sock says, what's up? Chris says, what's up, Mitch? Chris says, your boy from Poco. What's going on, Chris? Chris, what's your last name? I don't... Do I know you, Chris? Planet says, last week was crazy. I agree. Ravens washing the Steelers. Deshaun Drakeford says, taking New Orleans in a close one in New Orleans. I'll get to that game in a bit. Kevin Durkant says, Mitch. What's going on, Kevin Durkant? Tristan says, Rams 35-22. Wow. Deshaun Drakeford says, Seattle Seahawks winning 17-13, 4-1 after Thursday Night Football. I'm assuming you're saying they're 4-1 on Thursday Night Football, or they're 4-1 with their record after Thursday night. I guess that's what you mean. All right. Trill says, never mind, nothing to do with me. Gary says, Chiefs beat the Colts Sunday night. Colts 23, Chiefs 38. Interesting. I will get to that game as well, so hold on for that. Tom Ryan says 2,000 on the Pats money line, Eagles money line, and Chiefs money line. Wow, that's bold, but I mean, hey, that's probably going to happen. So if you're going to put your money anywhere, you probably put them on those three teams. SCU Production says, I'm going to guess that you say the Broncos beat Chargers easily. If only, with a crying face. Doreen says Falcons win. Carolina 35-20 says Tristan. Panthers 12-9 says Rob. Sammy says Panthers 24-13. Trivia says Fournette is ass, even though he had over 200 yards last week. Deshaun says Gardner Minshew show continues 27-20 Jags over Panthers. Trivia says 23-21 Carolina. Eat Your Socks says the Panthers are going to pound all over Minshew. Eat Your Socks says our defense is fire. I'm assuming he's talking about the Panthers. What else we have here? Bengals draft Justin Herbert in 2020. Fact or fiction? If he doesn't go first, then, you know, he could be going first. We don't know yet. I mean, Tua is probably going to go first, but we don't know. Atlanta fan says, our wide receivers are way too talented and Dirk Cutter is not utilizing them well. DeMarco Murray or Zeke? I'd have to say Zeke. Do the Patriots bounce back even though we won? I will get to that. Don't worry. Tyreek may play Sunday night. Yep. Are you scared the Patriots offense hasn't been dominant since AB left? AB played for one game. And they dominated the Jets. They just stopped playing in the middle of the fourth quarter. All right, let's go with the next game. The next game. Is that the next game? Nope. Where am I? There I am. All right, Atlanta Falcons and the Houston Texans. Houston is -5 in this game, which was one of the spreads that was a shocker to me because Houston has not played very well. And I know that that Vegas really seems to like Houston because their spreads are always kind of in their favor. Maybe it's Deshaun Watson, but it just seems like 5 is a lot of points, even if this game is in Houston. And I think that kind of gives my pick away. So at the very least, I'm going to say that Atlanta will cover this. So I'm going to take Atlanta +5. Now, this is why I'm taking Atlanta +5. This game will be in a dome. So Atlanta plays in a dome at home. This shouldn't be too much of an adjustment. As we saw versus Indianapolis, that game was very close. Houston also plays in a dome. Houston's offense is a complete mess. They can't block, and their offense of passing game is entirely too simple. Deshaun Watson did miss 2 big bombs versus Carolina that could have been touchdowns. He did miss those, but, it didn't happen. So will it happen versus Atlanta? Who knows? I will say Atlanta's defense, they're very fast, and I think that does match up well with Deshaun Watson in terms of if Watson wants to play that street ball, that jungle ball sort of style where he's running around trying to make something happen, Atlanta can track him down just like that because they're very fast up front. They have fast linebackers, fast defensive linemen, and that will be hard to do versus Atlanta's front. And if Atlanta can get pressure, I think they do win this game. When you look at it, both of these teams are pretty desperate. Houston is 2-2, Atlanta is 1-3, but Atlanta is the more desperate of the two teams. I think this is a game where Atlanta can pass the ball quite efficiently. You look at Julio and Sanu and Ridley versus this secondary, which doesn't really have a great cover guys. I mean, Bradley Roby is okay, but outside of that, they don't have anybody that can really match up with these guys one-on-one. And to that point, Tennessee's secondary is a lot better than Houston's. Tennessee's defense in general is a lot better than Houston's. The Texans have beat two teams that do play the Seattle scheme, though. They have beat Jacksonville. They have beat the Chargers. Atlanta does tend to play that defense. But I have noticed, specifically versus the Titans, that Atlanta played a lot more man-to-man coverage than typically they do. Will Fuller needs to get involved for Houston to start winning. He needs to get some big plays here and there. When I looked at the tape from the Atlanta game, I think that Atlanta basically gave that game away. I know that the Titans were the better team on the field. I'm not trying to say that they weren't, and they definitely deserved to win that game. But when I look at it, I mean, Matt Ryan fumbled. That killed a drive for them. They had 3 4th and short turnovers where they could have had points. I mean, they had 2 4th and 1s that they didn't convert. And early in the game, I don't know why, at least one of those, they didn't just try and kick a field goal and get some points on the board. And then another one was like a 4th and 4. They couldn't convert that. They missed a field goal. And really in the second half, Tennessee's offense wasn't doing anything. They got to 24 points, and then they just completely shut down. Atlanta was continuously moving the ball down the field, down the field, down the field. They just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. They couldn't convert on 4th down, and they weren't settling for those field goals. Instead, they were going for it and not just adding points to the scoreboard, which I'm interested to see if that changes in their approach in any way going into this game versus Houston. I will say Atlanta was way too one-dimensional versus Tennessee. They didn't run the ball in the second half at all, really. They just said, we're losing, so we're going to pass a lot, and that did basically create a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan. I will say Atlanta's offensive line played pretty well versus Tennessee overall, and I will say that Houston needs to play Duke Johnson a lot more than they have been. Carlos Hyde's been playing well, but Duke Johnson gives you a different threat. He created a couple of the big plays versus Carolina and really wasn't involved outside of that. Now, with all those notes and all those things being said, I will say that I'm going to go with Atlanta to cover and Atlanta to win this game. Like I said, I am not satisfied with what I've seen from Houston. I don't believe in the Texans right now. I don't believe in their offensive line. I don't believe in their offensive scheme. And even though I don't love Atlanta, I have seen some things in their games where I'm saying, okay, this unluckiness that they're having, this luck that has been misfortunate in a certain way, that's going to turn around in one or two of these games, and they're going to be able to piece it together. Instead of driving down the field, turning the ball over, or driving down the field, going for it on 4th down and not making it, they're going to drive down the field and put it in the end zone. It's just going to happen one of these games. And versus a Houston defense that's not nearly as good as Tennessee, they should be able to move the ball up and down the field. And I just don't know if I think Houston can do that. Even versus an Atlanta defense that's not fantastic. It's not one of the best ones in the league, but it's not bad either. It's seventh versus the pass in the NFL right now. And like I said, that front seven is very fast and matches what Deshaun Watson wants to do outside of the pocket and make plays. And really, DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller have been slowed down for the past couple of games and have not been able to get anything going. So I'm going to take Atlanta to win this game, and I'll take the points as well. 5 points. Atlanta is going to beat the Houston Texans this week. All right. Next, the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the New Orleans Saints. Okay, I will say this. Tampa Bay was my first inclination when I was looking at this game, because Tampa Bay has beat New Orleans quite frequently over the past few years. And I actually have not written down a pick for this game, so I'm completely making this up off the top of my head. I am not sold on who will win this game. I was extremely impressed with what I saw from Tampa Bay in their game versus the Rams. I will give credit to Bruce Arians. I will give credit to Leftwich. And I will give credit to Jameis Winston, even though nobody wants to. What they did very effectively versus the Rams was they made the Rams play in base personnel. They made the Rams come out and use that extra linebacker on the field. Use that extra defensive lineman instead of playing in sub-defense. And they were very effective in using their 2 receivers and their 2 tight ends and their running game to consistently move the ball down the field and keep the Rams off balance. And that was an extremely impressive game plan. I think the coaching for Tampa Bay has been next level this year, defensively and offensively. Godwin and Evans are the best duo in the league right now at receiver. I don't want to hear Diggs and Thielen. I don't want to hear Odell and Landry. I don't want to hear anyone else. They are the best duo. It's not really that close right now. Godwin is playing out of his mind, and Evans is a monster. They did a very good job defensively in confusing Jared Goff and getting deflections and getting pressure. Shaq Barrett's the defensive player of the year right now and just completely dominating. When I look at New Orleans, what I was impressed about with their win over Dallas was how great their defensive line was. They are maybe the best defensive line at stopping the run in the league. They are very, very big. They have a lot of depth in that area, especially in the interior. Guys like Malcolm Brown and Davenport and Jordan and all these guys played very, very well, I thought. This is a big test for Teddy Bridgewater this week, because if Tampa Bay is actually able to score points versus New Orleans and a team is able to consistently move the ball early in this game, how does that offense in New Orleans respond? Are they able to go score for score with the team? Tampa Bay has had New Orleans' number in terms of scoring, and Winston has had his success versus the Saints secondary. I will say, if Lattimore is taking Evans, are they going to be able to cover Godwin? I want to also say that New Orleans was different in their defensive approach versus Dallas. They played differently. They weren't so aggressive in their game plan, in their approach. They were a little bit more laid back in terms of their coverages and their calls defensively, and Dennis Allen deserves that respect. I do see a big game for Michael Thomas in this one. I do think that Alvin Kamara will be pretty much held in check for the most part, contained as much as you can, because guys like Levante David, the fast linebackers Tampa Bay does have, I think will come in handy in that matchup. The Saints, they win games now with physicality. They win games with their offensive line and their defensive line. And to me, it comes down to, are they able to get pressure on Winston and stop the run? And are they able to block Shaq Barrett and open up holes for Kamara on the offensive line? Those two things will decide the game to me, because if Winston has time, he's going to pick apart the Saints defense. And if the Bucs are able to maintain balance offensively, that will open up all the play action and the deep shots they want to have with their receivers. And then on the other side, I just think they don't want to get in that shootout with Teddy Bridgewater. I just don't think they're capable of doing it. But at the end of the day, I just have too much respect for how the Saints have been playing, even though this is a potential letdown spot. Because it's at home, I'm going to take the Saints to win. Now, with the points are -3.5 points. The half point is very, very interesting. I really like the way the Bucs have been playing, guys, and I really like the way they've been coached. I'm going to say Tampa Bay covers. I'm going to say that this comes down to the wire. I know this isn't a very smart bet, but I just want to cover from both angles in a way where I feel like Tampa Bay might win this game. So whenever I have a feeling that a team might win, I do want to take the points. So I'm going to go New Orleans, and then I'm going to take Tampa Bay -3.5. That's one of the toughest games this week, I feel like, in the entire league to pick. And I do feel like people need to start giving some respect to Tampa Bay because they've been very good this year, and I think they do deserve their respect. All right. Next game, Minnesota at New York. Minnesota is -5. The Giants had a very good game versus Washington last week, but Minnesota is not Washington. Minnesota had their typical horrible game against Chicago, and I'm just going to completely erase that from my memory because they are always, with Kirk Cousins, terrible versus Chicago. They can't seem to score. They can't seem to do anything offensively when they play the Bears. They are -5 in this game. They are on the road. There are questions of turmoil with Minnesota. What's going on with Thielen and Cousins, that relationship? Is Stephon Diggs going to get traded? What's going on there? Danny Dimes, I think he's in a tough matchup here. This is the toughest matchup he's had all season, facing a veteran coordinator like Zimmer. Now, he does have in handy that Pat Shurmur was the offensive coordinator for Zimmer's Vikings a couple seasons ago. So that will be a very intriguing matchup from a coaching perspective. I am going to say the Vikings win. I'm going to also say the Vikings cover the 5 points because I do think that this defense will be too much for the Giants. I also think that the Vikings will be able to establish the run and be able to run the ball, which will open up Thielen down the field. And you look at it, Giants are 19th versus the run. The Vikings are one of the best teams running the ball. The reason why the Vikings weren't successful offensively versus Chicago is because they couldn't run the ball versus Chicago. I don't think that will be the case versus the Giants. So I will say Minnesota, even on the road, will win and will cover -5. If, though, the Giants are able to score over 20 points, they should be able to cover this game. So that's my thoughts on the game. Next, the Chicago Bears at the Oakland Raiders. The Bears looked dominant defensively versus Minnesota once again. They were getting pressure on Cousins. They were all over the receivers. They were dominant in the run game, and that was without their second best player on defense, Akeem Hicks. The Bears defense is certainly top 3 in the league. They play in attack mode. They create turnovers. They force mistakes. I think the Bears won't be ran on in this game. I don't think there will be much success for the Raiders offensively. I just don't see where they have many advantages, whether that's on the offensive line, whether that's in the secondary, or in the run game. I just don't see the advantages they have. The Raiders, they don't seem to create a lot of big plays down the field. And as impressive as they've been in certain games, like versus the Colts and the Broncos, I think the Bears defense is just another animal to handle. They've been so impressive, physically imposing. They have a lot of really good guys up front. Robert Harris is playing really well. Khalil Mack, obviously. Just like, they're so deep up front, and they just bully people. And as much as Gruden can get these guys to play hard, and as impressive as he was scheming up versus the Colts, it's hard to scheme up versus a defense that's just better than you are and more talented than you are. Versus a defense like the Colts where they play a very soft zone defense, it's much easier to scheme against that than it is the Bears. So I am going to go with the Bears. I don't care who the quarterback is, whether it's Daniel or Trubisky. Not a lot matters there for me. I'm going to take the Bears to win. I'm going to take the Bears to cover. Typically the Raiders, when they come off a big win, specifically with Gruden, who's a raw guy, they fall flat on their face the next week. So I'm going to go with the Bears to win. And I also want to say shout out to Matt Nagy for getting the ball to Montgomery and getting the ball to Allen Robinson. That's what you need to be doing. All right, one more game. Back to the comments. Okay, the New York Jets at the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is pretty obvious. I'm taking the Eagles to win. I'm taking the Eagles to cover. Falk just isn't an NFL quarterback. He's an XFL quarterback. The Eagles, I think looking at their defense, Schwartz will be able to eat up with blitzes, with different confusion, different coverages. Falk won't know what the heck's going on. And then you look offensively for the Eagles. Deshaun Jackson should be back in the lineup. I see big plays coming from Carson Wentz, who's playing very, very good football. And Alshon Jeffrey should be better. He was good last week. He should be healthier, And I just want to see the Eagles continue to run the ball from under center, because they've been successful doing that. They were very good running the ball last week. I want to see that continue. I want to see the Eagles starting to hit those big plays with Deshaun Jackson back in the lineup. I do want to say this. The reason why the Eagles were not in the top 10 for me this week, a lot of Eagles fans are all over me for not saying they're an elite team right now. The reason why they're not an elite team, which they might be in the future, I'm not saying they won't be. I'm saying right now they are not. The reason that is because their defense is not playing well. Their defense is getting passed on. Their defense is getting not really run on, but, just big plays through the air. And they're blitzing. They're giving up way too aggressive defensively at times. And then when they're not aggressive, they're not able to get the pass rush that they've traditionally been able to, exposing this secondary. And Aaron Rodgers showed that. He had some big plays versus this team. So I just don't think that a guy like Falk will be able to take advantage of that this week. So I think you're safe, Eagles fans. You should dominate this game offensively, and that should be enough to win this one, and I just don't think Falk's good enough. So minus 14, doesn't matter. I'll take the Eagles to win and to cover. All right, back to the comments. How about that? Okay. I don't know where I left off here. Cardinals 21-14, says Sammy. Bungles 20-17, says Rob. Bungles 31-24, says Bethel. But Arizona will come back late. Oh, what else we have? There's so many comments. I don't even know where I was at. Mr. Wong says, Mitch, visit Burnaby next time you're in town. My hood. We'll see about that. Joe says, Seahawks versus Chiefs, Super Bowl, my prediction. Interesting prediction. Gardner Minshew hurt his knee versus Denver and may not play this week. I'm pretty sure he's going to play. I haven't heard any reports that say he won't. Atlanta fan says, Houston covers. 31-17. Our defense is ass. Our offense will be sleepwalking. Joe says Texans 34, Texans 27. Watson's going to torch the trash Falcons defense. Maybe. Deshaun Drakeford says he's taking the Patriots over the Redskins. Wow, that's a shocking pick. We also suck versus AFC teams, says Atlanta fan. 34-27, Houston wins, says Deshaun. Eat Your Socks says Houston 35-30. Atlanta fan says, Mitch, you're basically telling everyone the story of our season so far. You just forget to mention that we commit penalties on every third down to help opposing teams. Demetrius says, Houston -5, Jags +3.5, Minnesota -4.5. Are those your bets of the week? Atlanta fan says our defense is way worse than stats say. We made Jacoby Brissett look like Peyton Manning. Jacoby has been good all season, so that's not... And Marcus Mariota looked like Steve McNair. I don't really have a comment for that, even though you only let up 24 points. Atlanta fan says Bucks with the upset. They're going to put up points, and Bridgewater can't play like that. Bucks D has been monstrous. I would agree. If they do put up points, they will win. Tristan says Saints 20-18, Saints 17-13, says Rob. Godwin stealing all the fantasy points from Mike Evans with a sad face. Eat Your Socks, please not let the Bucks be good now. This season has 12 weeks left, and we still, we have no idea what's going on right now. Bucks definitely had the best coaching hires. No debate there. Sammy says Vikings 14-9. Vikings 19-13, says Eat Your Socks. Vikings 27-10. Says Atlanta fan, Daniel Jones won't be able to move the ball in Vikings defense, and the Giants defense isn't good. Nazir says, the first couple of weeks, you were great. You killed me last week. I bet a couple of your parlay on your picks. Do better, man. Do better. Don't ever pick against Tennessee when they play a bad defense. All right, I'll note that in the mind. I'm sorry that I let you down, buddy. I'll get you back this week. Yeah, no Patriots jersey up there. I'm showing some love to some other teams. Also, I feel like I had Edelman up there, and Edelman hasn't been playing that well, so I want to get a different name up there. Guys, we only have 16 likes right now. Let's get those likes up. What the heck's going on, all right? We need to get at least 50 likes. We have 51 people in here. Let's get 51 likes. How's that so hard? Let's go, guys. Wrong spike the like button. All right, let's continue with these picks. How about that? So that was Philly. Next, we have Baltimore, and we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers finally won a game this season, guys, so I want to give a hand out to Bodo, my boy Bodo. I want to give a hand to the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, the whole group. You know, they trade a first-round pick for a safety, and they have one win, so good work, good work. All right, keep making those Dolphins picks worse. How about that? Baltimore, -3.5 at Pittsburgh. Baltimore, the question is, have they come back down to earth? My answer would probably be yeah. I mean, I don't think this is a coincidence that they went 2-0. They played Miami. They played Arizona. Then they play Kansas City. And they play Cleveland. And they lose. I don't think it's a coincidence also that their defense has not looked very good. When all offseason I was saying, hey, this defense, they'll still be pretty good, but they won't be great. They won't be the best defense in the league like they were last year. And so far, that's been the case. Offensively, Lamar is going to have some great games. Offensively, they're not going to have some great games because teams are going to be able to figure out their offense. And that's what I want to see going forward. Are teams able to figure out this offense, or is Lamar just that special? And in this game, it comes down to that one question. Pittsburgh's defense has been a lot better lately. Ravens' defense has been horrible. They're 27th in yards. They're 30th versus the pass. But when you look at it, which quarterback, which offense is more likely to take advantage of the defense? I don't think Mason Rudolph is going to be able to take advantage of the Ravens' defense. I don't think the Steelers have the personnel to take advantage of the Ravens' defense. What the Ravens' defense has been very bad at defending is 3 receivers or more. And Pittsburgh doesn't have good receivers outside of Juju. It's just a cold, hard fact. And I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball extremely well. They might have some success. And Rudolph's just not one of those guys that's going to be super explosive. And when I look on the other side, I think the Steelers will play pretty well versus the Ravens offense. But I look at a mismatch in Mark Andrews versus whoever's covering him, and that will be a big deal for the Ravens offense. I think they'll utilize a lot of tight ends this week and get those guys going. And then I think Lamar Jackson, he's just such a explosive player. He's going to beat you running. He's going to beat you with jungle football. He's going to beat you with street ball. And that's how the Ravens will end up winning this game. So I'm going to take the Ravens to win and to cover the 3.5, even though they're on the road, because I do feel like they have come off 2 bad losses. Harbaugh will not have 3 in a row. He'll fix some of the issues they've been having. And I think with their coaching staff, which is a better coaching staff than Pittsburgh's, they'll be more prepared for Pittsburgh, and I think they will win this game and cover. All right. Next game is the Buffalo Bills at the Tennessee Titans. This would have been a great game with Josh Allen. With Barkley, it's a little different. I think this game is very interesting because both of these teams are very similar. Both of the offenses are hit and miss. Both of the defenses are fantastic. I would say Buffalo's is better, but Tennessee's is good as well. When you look at it, Marcus Mariota is playing better. He played very well last week. He was on point, with his accuracy. A.J. Brown is a straight-up monster. I mean, that guy looks like Mike Evans. Like, he's huge. He's muscular. He looks like he's tough to handle out there. So, he's a big guy at a receiver. I like the trio that they have at receiver now. That used to be a weakness. I don't feel like it's great. Like, it's not like one of the better ones in the league, but you can do worse than Corey Davis and A.J. Brown and Humphreys. I think that's pretty good with Delaney Walker at tight end, Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis at running back. There are some weapons to be had there for Marcus Mariota. Defensively, they have a very strong secondary that I think can match up with Buffalo's receivers for the most part. Adoree Jackson probably on John Brown. Logan Ryan on Cole Beasley. Malcolm Butler on whoever, maybe Zay Jones, or you could put Malcolm Butler on John Brown and switch the other matchup, Jackson on Jones. So those are some matchups there. Frank Gore's been playing phenomenal, even at 142 years old. The guy is still making things happen. I just can't say that the Bills are going to win this game on the road with Matt Barkley at quarterback, even if their defense is absolutely fantastic and people finally woke up to how good their defense is because they did it to Tom Brady and the Patriots. But that is a team they know well. That is a scheme they know well. That is a quarterback and a coach they know well. And they know the Patriots well. And they were hyped up for that game. And they put a lot of effort into that game. And I just don't see that same intensity. I don't see that same effort going into Tennessee, especially with their backup quarterback trying to let their starter rest. So, at the end of the day, I will say that Tennessee will win, and I will say that they will cover, even though I think this game will be defensive, and I think it will be hard for Tennessee to score. I'm going to say that they win something like 20-13 over Buffalo. But Buffalo is legit. With Josh Allen, they're legit, and both of these teams are debatably playoff teams. And I think Buffalo, with the weaker schedule they do face than Tennessee, has a better chance of making the playoffs, but they just don't have their starting quarterback right now. And unless something changes in the concussion protocol, I probably am just going to stick with Tennessee. So, Titans there, win and cover. Okay. Next, the New England Patriots head to Washington in a game that everybody is anticipating. The two best teams in their respective conferences, the Patriots in the AFC, the Redskins in the NFC. I can't even say that with a straight face. The Patriots are minus 15.5, the third huge spread, and this is only the third biggest spread they've had all year, which is absolutely insane. But, Patriots are going to win. It's just a matter about how much and how they look. For Patriots fans, it's not necessarily do they win, it's how they look. And for a lot of us, it's more about how do they look offensively. Because for whatever reason, Patriots fans have been built into their skulls, their thick skulls, that the Patriots offense needs to put up 35 a game for them to play well. Even if they give up 32, it doesn't matter because they'd rather win 35-32 than 16-10 for some reason. Even though I've been a Patriot fan who's been asking for a legitimately elite defense since 2004. So, we legitimately have a great defense this year. And on that note, I legitimately do not know how the Redskins are going to score more than 10 points. Like, maybe they score 10. I'm going to say they score 9 in this game. I'll give them 3 field goals. I don't know who the quarterback is because the Redskins don't either. Colt McCoy probably gives you a better chance to win at this point than Haskins does. And I don't think you want to put Haskins in the game versus the best secondary and defense in the league. Shout out to Jamie Collins. Shout out to Devin McCourty. Shout out to Stephon Gilmore. All guys are playing at Defensive Player of the Year caliber right now. I think the Patriots are going to score a lot of points. You look at the Redskins' defense, they are horrendous versus the pass. They're mediocre versus the run. I think Brady will be able to eat them alive. I think you'll see some big plays with Philip Dorsett and Josh Gordon in this game. And I think the Patriots will win 38-9 over the Redskins. They will win. They will cover. And honestly, this is probably one of the best bets to make of the week. Okay. Next game. Just checking. This is Denver versus the Chargers. The Broncos have been close in every game, which I'm sure for Broncos fans that must suck because I think you'd rather just straight up be awful and then lose every game by like 3 points, which has been happening to them. Because of that point, though, this makes this game very interesting from a spread perspective. I think the Chargers will win the game. They are favored by 6.5. But I am going to take the Broncos to cover. This is a divisional game. And when I look at the matchup, I've been impressed, to a certain degree. At least last week, I thought Joe Flacco played well. And Joe Flacco has sustained 2 top 15 fantasy receivers, or 2 top 20 fantasy receivers so far in Emmanuel Sanders and Courtland Sutton. Cortland Sutton and Emmanuel Sanders are playing very well. Denver's offense does have some weapons in Lindsey and Fant, and those receivers are playing well. I think Joe Flacco is just not that good right now. I think he's done. But, I mean, overall, he's put up some numbers, and I could see them moving the ball versus the Chargers a decent amount in this game. They have in the past. And these matchups last year, from what I remember, were pretty close. Plus, Denver's defense is better than they were last year, and they've made it hard on a lot of their opponents. They were winning 17-3 versus the Jags, and they just completely collapsed. I think the Chargers have no receivers. I mean, Dontrell Inman is now on IR. Keenan Allen's their only guy legitimately. Hunter Henry's not there either. Can you name the second receiver on the Chargers? I don't know if Mike Williams is going to play. I don't know if Travis Benjamin is going to play. Like, all these guys are injured. So, if Mike Williams plays, maybe I changed my pick for the Chargers to cover. But I just don't see it. I think the Broncos, even if Chubb's on IR, their defense will play it close enough. I think it's about time where they do pick up an upset victory here or there. So I think it's going to be a close game. And when you look at the Chargers going forward, I think they're going to have to convert to being more of a run-heavy team, which in my opinion does suit them better because they have Melvin Gordon, they have Austin Eckler. I would say 2 of the top 20 running backs in the league. And then you have Anthony Lynn, who's one of the best run schemers in the league. I would start to be more of a running team, even with Phillip Rivers there, because your receivers just don't have it right now. You don't have the playmakers at that position, specifically with Mike Williams on the injury report. So I think the Chargers will win, but I'm going to say that the Broncos do make the game within 6.5 points. So I'm going to say it's going to be something like 24-20 for the Chargers. And the Broncos will end up making it a close game, but once again, they will lose. So, unfortunately, sorry, Broncos fans. Next, one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of the week, the Green Bay Packers at the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are minus 3.5, favored by 3.5 in this game. Dallas, they lost to the Saints in disappointing fashion. Many of us thought, they would go into New Orleans, they would win the game, and it would be kind of like a statement victory in some fashion or form. But that didn't happen. They weren't able to run the ball with Zeke. New Orleans' defensive line dominated, and Amari Cooper, wasn't able to get it going. Dak wasn't able to get it going. Their defense was still very, very good, which is expected to be in this game. Now they have Aaron Rodgers. He comes to town. A guy who has beat them time and time again. How will the Cowboys respond? I think the Cowboys win this game. I think the Cowboys cover as well. Because when you look at that game versus the Eagles were running the ball versus the Packers at will. They were easily running the ball with pretty much no resistance. If Dallas can just run the ball, that will set up their entire offense. Everything with Dallas is from Zeke. Zeke is the engine. Zeke is what makes this offense run. Because then Kellen Moore has so much more freedom. He can call screens. He can call play action, which is where they were getting their big plays. Michael Gallup is coming closer to being back. That's probably next week. But I still feel like without him, they can create some big plays. Jari Alexander is a tough matchup for Amari Cooper, so I do feel like somebody else needs to step up. But with that run game going, it's that much easier to get that pass game going. Dallas is very good at home. Dak will be comfortable. Aaron Rodgers, despite his success versus Dallas, this is the best Dallas defense they've had in a long time. And without Devontae Adams, they have had no one else step up. Adams is not going to play in this game. I highly doubt it. If he does, I'll change my pick to Green Bay covering, but because he's that much of a difference maker. But without him, they have no go-to guy. They have no one that can win their matchup on the outside and man-to-man. And even if Aaron Rodgers can make some incredible throws and buy time within the pocket, I just don't see it. Dallas's defense is too good, and Dallas has a perfect matchup offensively. So I'm going to take the Cowboys to win and to cover. This is just a bad spot for Green Bay to be in right now because they're not fully healthy. And their best offensive player outside of their quarterback is hurt. So that's not good. So I'm going to take Dallas. And I still believe in Dallas. I think they need a big comeback win here. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I'm just going to finish off the picks and then get to the comments. Sunday Night Football is the Indianapolis Colts at Kansas City in a rematch of the divisional round of the AFC from last season. Kansas City is minus 10.5. I have the Chiefs winning this game. I don't think there's any question about that. It's just a matter of if the Colts will cover. I don't see the Colts having an upset here because if Marlon Mack doesn't play, that significantly hurts their chances. If T.Y. Hilton doesn't play, that significantly hurts their chances. I think either one of those guys, one of the other won't play. I think Hilton will play. I think Mack won't play. And that will hurt their chances. Defensively, I don't believe in the Colts defense right now, specifically with what the Raiders did to them. I just think the Chiefs will be able to move the ball up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up. No resistance, because I don't think the Colts defense has that style of defense that you want to play versus Kansas City, and they don't really change up what they do from week to week. It's just soft zone. It's make you go the length of the field. It's make you making a mistake, and Mahomes doesn't make that many mistakes. Travis Kelce is too good. Andy Reid's too good of a play caller. At home, they're too explosive. Even without Tyreek Hill, they're going to score 30 points. I don't think the Colts will score 30-plus points. I think they might score 20-plus points, and that's why I'm going to say they cover 10.5, because I do think with T.Y. Hilton there, now this pick may change. If T.Y. Hilton is out and Marlon Mack is out, I will take Kansas City to win and to cover. But if T.Y. Hilton is at least playing in this game, I will take the Colts to cover because I think the Colts can score 24-plus points. And I think they can keep it to 31-24. And I think the Chiefs will have control of this game the whole time because I think Mahomes will have control of this game the whole time. But I do think Jacoby is good enough, Frank Reich's good enough, this offense is good enough to score and to keep this game competitive. So that all being said, even though the Chiefs blew them out last year in Arrowhead, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Colts remember that. I think the Colts want some revenge here. And I do think the Colts match up pretty well from an offensive perspective against the Chiefs' defense. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning, but the Colts covering for now. May change my pick. All right. Where am I at here? I'm at 66. 67. All right. And Monday Night Football. The last game of the week. Before I get to my prediction, make sure you guys Gronk spike that like button. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. All right. Cleveland Browns at the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are favored by 3.5 points. The 49ers are coming off a bye. The Browns are coming off a huge divisional victory versus the Baltimore Ravens. I have the 49ers winning this game and the 49ers covering, even though this is going to be very tight. That half a point makes me super nervous. Okay, why? I really like what Cleveland did last week. I think they made a ton of improvements from an offensive perspective. Baker Mayfield played better. Baker Mayfield was less antsy in the pocket. He was more comfortable. He was more confident. They ran the ball. Thank God. Run the ball. They didn't force the ball to Odell. All right? They didn't force it to Odell. They said, hey, Odell's doubled every 3 plays, every 2 plays, every play almost. I'm going to throw to Jarvis Landry, who has a number 1. A great matchup. I'm going to throw to Jarvis Landry. He's my 1B. I'm going to throw to him 100 million times, and that's going to be the matchup that I expose constantly. They did that. I love it. Okay? The 49ers are being slept on as giants right now in the NFL. They are being slept on mightily. They're 3-0. In those 3 games, they pretty much lost the turnover battle in all 3 of those games, and they still won, which speaks to them being a very talented football team, them having great coaching, and putting themselves in the best situation to move the ball and to play defense, even though they're giving the ball up and making stupid errors and turnovers and penalties as well. Kyle Shanahan has 2 weeks to prepare for this defense. 2 weeks to prepare for a defense that is good, but is missing a lot of key pieces. A lot of their key pieces in the secondary are injured. He can take advantage of that. Jimmy G has a bye week. He can go back. He can self-scout himself over the first 3 weeks. Remember, this guy was injured last year. He needs some time to get back. He needs some time to mentally prepare. And I think this is a big week for them. Dante Pettis is getting back. He's getting healthy. He had his best game before the bye week with the game-winning touchdown. He should be better after this bye week. They're the best running football team in the league. Cleveland's 21st versus the run. The 49ers, they are the only, one of the only defenses that are top 6 in rushing defense, top 6 in passing defense. And they're the best team at running the ball in the league. I think the 49ers are going to win this game. I think they're going to cover. And even though I like what the Browns have done, I still question, on third downs, can they block? Because San Francisco, at home, with that defensive line, they're going to get after Mayfield. Will Mayfield have enough time to be able to deliver the ball? And I just don't know if he will. So I'm going to go with San Francisco to win, San Francisco to cover. And even though I think this is going to be a fantastic game, this might be the best game on Monday Night Football all year, especially in terms of excitement, I'm going to go with the 49ers. Don't sleep on the 49ers. All right. Those are my picks for week number 5 of the 2019 NFL season. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button and subscribe if you're new. All right, let's get to the comments. Lots of comments. All right. 34-0 Eagles, says Sammy. Sammy says 20-6 Bears. 31-6, eat your socks. Julian says, LOL, Falk is an XFL quarterback. Atlanta fan says, please, Jordan Howard, just play well this week and save my fantasy team. Eagles win 30-13. Bethel says, 23-10 Eagles. Kathleen says, Patriots are winning versus the Washington Redskins, 32-20. Robot Guy says, 38-10 Eagles. Rob says, 28-3 Eagles. Mr. Torres says porn star Jimmy. Ravens 24-20. Saints 24-20. Rams money line looks tasty, possibly. Robot Guy 23-17 Ravens. Steelers 20-17 says Zach. Ravens D is highly overrated, says Zach. Mark Ingram 106 rushing yards versus Steelers. That's awfully specific. Mark G says, take the Steelers and the points. I don't trust Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson hasn't been the issue with the Ravens. He's played well. Titans 14-13, says Sammy. Buffalo 30-16, says eat your socks. Atlanta says, if Josh Allen was playing, I'd go Buffalo. Barkley is not good, so I have to go with Tennessee. Tristan says, Bills 20-17. Buffalo 24-16. Atlanta fan says, Titans don't win when they're favorites. Interesting. Factor Fiction, 8-8 wins the AFC South. I'll say fiction. I think some team at least gets 9-7. But it is weird that all of them are 2-2. Sammy says 40-6 for the Patriots. Tristan says 35-10 Patriots. 52-0 Patriots, says Rob. Colt McCoy likely the starter. Atlanta fan says, can Sony Michel just not suck? I hope so too. Sony, please do not suck. Sony, do you hear me? Do not suck, Sony. Thank you. And I do think it's more offensive line than Sony. I agree with Rob. One Pride says, Pats fans are spoiled. 100% agree. Andy says, you're saving the best for last. I did. All right. Broncos always play the Chargers tough, but the Chubb injury is a big blow, says Atlanta fan. Nazir says, Chargers don't have Melvin Ingram, Derwin James, Mike Williams. Denver doesn't have not Nick Chubb. That's the other Chubb. 31-27 Cowboys, says Sammy. 24-20 Cowboys, says Rob. Tristan says 28-21 Cowboys. Cowboys by 3 because of home field, says Robot. Frank says you're giving the Patriots too much credit. They've played weak teams. My grandma and grandma's dog would look good versus those opponents. I think we all know who has the best defense in the NFL. Okay. Zach Allen says Green Bay 30, Dallas 27. Kansas City by 14, says Robot Guy. Rob says 31-20. Chiefs 35-21, Tristan says. 49ers 28-14, says Tristan. 31-6, Niners. Holy crap. Niners by 4, says Robot Guy. Niners defense is going to stuff Mayfield, says Rob. Witherspoon is out. Yeah, he was injured. Hopefully Verrett can fill in well. Jalen Hurd might be back. Niners defense is reminding me of the Harbaugh days. I don't know if it's quite that good, but it's good. Those Harbaugh defenses were really, really good. One Pride says, I got Chiefs. A lot of respect for Mahomes. The Lions and Chiefs had a great game. Hey, finally Lions fans have respect for another player. All right, guys. That is it for the comments. And that is it for me here. Week number 5 picks. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, again, Gronk spike the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Now, I'm going to give you a couple bets as of now that I think are the best bets that I might potentially be betting on. So I'll give you those right now. But if you want to get like my up-to-date picks or thoughts, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Mitch Milani, because that is where you'll find my latest picks and my latest thoughts. I will post my picks from now on every week on Sunday morning, so you guys can get them, so you know who I'm betting on. All right, with real money, not just on this channel, because I have to bet on every game on this channel. I'm thinking about taking the Rams on Thursday, but I'm kind of nervous about it. I don't think it's like one of my top games, but I'm thinking about laying a little bit of money on it. I'm thinking about taking Atlanta this week. I'm thinking about taking the Bears. I'm thinking about taking New England. I'm thinking about taking Philadelphia. All those games are interesting to me. I'm staying away from Dallas. I'm staying away from Kansas City. And I'm staying away from Tennessee, Buffalo with everything. I'm staying away with Pittsburgh, Baltimore. And I'm considering taking Denver because of all the injuries the Chargers have. Then on Monday, depending on how I do Sunday, we'll see about the Monday night game, but I might take... I'm hoping it will fall to just 3 points. In that case, I will go with San Francisco. Those are kind of my feeling. I'm staying away from Tampa Bay, New Orleans, too. I have no idea what's going to happen. So, that all being said, thanks, guys, for joining me again. It's been Mitch. Peace out.